All right, this topic is coming from a place of our fitness side and our rehab side, and we've talked about it, early on during like onboarding. We haven't talked about it formally as a group in a long time. During any movement that we're giving someone, there's probably a desired technique or form, but there's also a desired tissue that we're trying to stress. And so when we're actually coaching technique or any movement, we want to understand how to stress a certain tissue. And so to make that easy on ourselves, we use the environment. We use constraints. So we've all used, heel wedges. We've all used boxes to squat down to. We use things like the bench when we're doing a kickstand RDL. All of those things are there for a reason. They're there to help the client achieve a certain pattern, but also to stress a certain tissue. And so the constraint eliminates potential movement patterns. Okay? The example of a step down, if I had you all do a step down right now, they'd all look very different, right? Some of you would just kind of fall forward, right? Some of you would put your hip back and go, right? And so using a target like this box, for example, that my knee has to hit is an example of a constraint where I'm adding a more certain path to the movement so I can accomplish the goal, which in this case might be my knee actually flexing without my hip flexing, right? So my tension stays in the quad, okay? The wall sit is another just really, easy example of how we use a constraint, right? If I'm doing a wall sit and I'm trying to get my knee in a vertical torso position to get my quads going, right? And people want to do this, right? We have the constraint of the wall for a reason, right? It's helping us bias a certain tissue or achieve a certain range of motion, right? And so in the case of our squats, first of all, why would we use a heel wedge? What could the heel wedge allow us to do in a squat pattern?
Translate a little further forward, be able to move more vertically.
Right. So I could do this, right, like that.
Stay heavy through back.
Right. So you have to stay on the heels too.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Versus off of the heel wedge, what's the main difference there?
Knees can't go as far forward, so you might move a little more back.
Okay.
So try to hit that.
Right. And so what does that do from like maybe a tissue standpoint?
Maybe a little bit further overload like quadriceps with a vertical. But it also might depend on depth too. So if you're just able to achieve greater depth, then you're also going to hit more just target tissue in the lower body.
Yes. Yes. Right. So the things when something lengthens, it's got to contract. Okay, so the more that we can lengthen a muscle, the more that we can contract a muscle. So in the case of a squat, okay, we're using a constraint to get a desired range of motion. Okay, in the case of a squat, we are trying to squat deep. So let's use an example here of if I can do a body weight squat like this, okay?